A girl, no older than a teenager, was staring through the frame like a bat out of hell. Two angry dudes, their faces twisted in fury, were hot on her heels. What was the loot? Not diamonds, not cash, but vials bubbling with mysterious chemical substances she'd just swiped from them. Her eyes darted around, desperate for a hideout, and what loomed before her? A decrepit, shadowy factory, its rusted gates a silent invitation. With a grunt of effort, the factory lock screamed as it gave way, and she vanished into its gaping maw. Just when she thought she was safe, boom! A rogue can of spinach, the very stuff that fueled the legendary Popeye, tumbled between her pursuers. One of the boys, a cocky smirk plastered on his face, puffed out his chest. He'd heard the tales, the myths of the sailor man. Trying to play it cool, he swaggered forward and growled, "Oi, Popeye! Unless you want trouble, you'd better scram." Big mistake. Huge. A shadow fell over the boy. A massive, gnarled hand, like a twisted tree root, snaked out and clamped onto him. Before his buddy could even blink, the boy was yanked into the inky blackness. A guttural rip echoed through the factory, followed by a sickening thud. The remaining boy's eyes widened in horror as he glimpsed the unspeakable his friend's organs, glistening wetly on the grimy floor. Panic surged. Desperate, he grabbed the girl, a rusty knife flashing at her throat. "Stay back, you freak!" he shrieked at the unseen menace. But this act of desperation was his death knell. With a mere twitch of his colossal hand, Popeye snapped the boy's arm like a twig. The boy howled in agony. Then, an even more gruesome sight, Popeye brought his massive, distorted hands to his own mouth, and with a sickening squelch and crack, he crushed the boy's entire head. Silence descended, heavy and thick with death. Popeye, this monstrous figure, then turned to the trembling girl. He had, in his brutal way, saved her, but her eyes, wide with terror, saw only the carnage. You're a monster," she choked out, her voice trembling. Something in Popeye's shadowed eyes flickered. Anger? Hurt? It didn't matter. In a swift, brutal motion, he silenced her forever. Popeye, the Slayer. The title card flashed across the screen, stark and chilling. Cut 2 years later, a young, eager filmmaker named Dexter had a burning passion to unravel the legend of Popeye. His quest led him to the same forsaken factory. With him was Olivia, a sharp and somewhat mysterious woman, and 3 other friends, their youthful curiosity outweighing any sense of dread. Inside the factory, they found Lex, the slick owner, trying to offload the property to a no-nonsense state agent. "I'll make the sale," the agent stated, his eyes narrowed. "But these rumors need to stop." "Rumors?" Lex feigned ignorance. "This factory was sealed 20 years ago," the agent countered, his voice firm. "Contaminated spinach. If that's not true, why hasn't it reopened? And then there's the big one. Does Popeye really live here?" As they spoke, a foul metallic stench began to permeate the air. Lex, his face paling, ventured deeper into the factory to investigate. Olivia, a knot of unease tightening in her stomach, lingered behind. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed through the cavernous space, growing closer, faster. A hand clamped down on her shoulder, and a blood-curdling scream ripped from her throat. It was just the guard, a burly figure with a surprisingly gentle smile. Lex tried to reassure her, but the seed of fear had been planted. Olivia, her face ashen, grabbed her bag and fled, leaving behind a crucial file. Lex, now alone with his hulking guard, gave a chilling order. "If anyone is still inside, eliminate them. This deal is happening, and I won't let anything jeopardize it." He then disappeared into the shadows. The guard, unflinching, began his patrol. It wasn't long before he stumbled upon the gruesome tableau, the 2 mangled corpses from years ago. And then, a colossal figure emerged from the gloom. Popeye. The guard, foolishly confident in his size, lunged. Popeye didn't even flinch. With a single, brutal backhand, he sent the guard sprawling. Then, with a sickening crunch, Popeye brought his foot down on the guard's head, ending his life as easily as squashing a bug. Meanwhile, Dexter's group had regrouped at a dimly lit bar, waiting for another friend, Katie, to finish her shift. The legend of Popeye the Slayer Man became their morbid topic of conversation. Katie, ever the skeptic, scoffed. "It's just a story." An old man, his face etched with the wisdom of years and a hint of fear, leaned in. "Don't take it lightly, children. Popeye the Slayer Man still lurks in that factory, waiting for his lost love. If you value your lives, stay away." Just then, Katie's boyfriend Joey and his rowdy friends swaggered in, fueled by cheap beer and teenage bravado. Ignoring the old man's warning, the whole group piled into cars and headed for the ominous factory. As they arrived, Olivia gasped. A figure stood silhouetted in the factory window, unmistakably Popeye. But in the blink of an eye, he was gone. A heavy lock now barred their entry. How would they film their documentary? No matter, Olivia, with an unsettling ease, picked the lock in seconds, as if it were routine. Inside, Katie received a call from Joey, but she abruptly disconnected it, unknowingly igniting a firestorm of jealousy in his already volatile mind. His friends, ever the instigators, whispered poison in his ear, suggesting a secret rendezvous between Katie and Dexter. Blinded by rage, Joey and his cronies sped towards the factory. Dividing their forces, Dexter and Olivia set up cameras, while their other two friends ventured into the darker recesses of the factory. Katie stayed by the monitor. Suddenly, Dexter and Olivia were bombarded by falling spinach cans. Panic fled, but then they discovered the culprit, a flock of pigeons nesting in the rafters. They breathed a collective sigh of relief, still clinging to the belief that Popeye was just a myth. Little did they know, a monstrous figure with a lit cigar stood silently behind them, his eyes burning in the shadows. The cameras whirred, capturing glimpses of Popeye moving through the factory. But Katie, engrossed in her phone, remained oblivious to the chilling footage. Meanwhile, the state agent returned, realizing she'd left her documents behind. As she retrieved them, her blood ran cold. The guard's mangled corpse lay before her. A scream tore from her throat. She spun around, and there he was, Popeye the Slayer Man, his presence a suffocating wave of terror. She fled, scrambling to hide in a nearby room. But a strand of her hair snagged in the closing door. A monstrous hand clamped down, yanking her back with brutal force. Her scalp screamed in protest as she was dragged out. Popeye then dragged her into a horrifying spinach-cutting machine, the whirring blades promising a gruesome end. Dexter and Olivia, now in the factory office, delved deeper into the mystery. Olivia revealed she'd left this town years ago, returning only recently for a specific purpose. They needed to find answers about the factory's dark past. Olivia's lockpicking skills were once again on display as she effortlessly opened locked drawers. Inside, they found a damning report. The factory had been shut down due to a deadly poisonous bacteria found in the spinach cans. Dexter was stunned. This hadn't made the news. Lex owns half the city, Olivia explained grimly. Covering this up would have been nothing for him. Their two companions joined them, their faces pale with unease. Together, they moved deeper into the factory, finding a room with a chilling poem scrawled on the walls, a warning about Popeye the Slayer Man, mentioning the smell of smoke and the chilling certainty of death if fear took hold. Joey and his friends finally arrived, Joey's anger a palpable force. Inside, Popeye had found Katie, still lost in her own world. She finally looked up and screamed, bolting away in terror, right into Joey's path. Before she could explain, Joey, consumed by jealousy, smashed her phone. Popeye lumbered after them. One of Joey's friends, trying to be a hero, foolishly stepped in front and plunged a knife into Popeye's shoulder. The blade might as well have been a toothpick. With a swift, brutal motion, Popeye ripped the boys' eyes from their sockets. The second friend panicked, drawing a gun, but a mere flick of Popeye's wrist shattered his hand. He and Joey, abandoning their injured friend, fled in terror, leaving Katie to face the monster alone. Outside, the injured boy desperately tried to start his car. It wouldn't budge. He looked back in horror to see Popeye lifting the entire vehicle from behind. He scrambled out, but Popeye was relentless, impaling him with a rusty anchor. Not content with a simple kill, Popeye then used the anchor to gruesomely sever the boy's throat. Inside, Joey, still searching for an escape, heard footsteps behind him. Mistaking Katie for Popeye, he fired his gun, hitting her. The gunshot drew Popeye. Seeing the monster again, Joey once again abandoned Katie and ran. Dexter and Olivia split up again to find Katie. Their two other friends stumbled upon a gruesome sight, a mangled corpse. They decided to call the police. But before they could, Popeye appeared. In their desperate flight, one of them tripped, his foot becoming entangled in a rusty net. As he struggled, jagged pieces of iron from the net tore loose, impaling him. His terrified companion watched as he bled out. She tried to flee, but her foot also became ensnared in the same deadly net, falling onto her dead friend, the iron rods piercing her as well. Dexter and Olivia, oblivious to the carnage, found a room filled with spinach cans and faded photographs of Popeye and his family. Here, the truth began to unravel. Newspaper clippings revealed Popeye's wife had worked at the factory and had exposed the contaminated spinach, leading to its closure. Then, she vanished. Lex had silenced her. Popeye, heartbroken and driven mad by grief, remained in the factory, desperately searching for her. To survive, he consumed the very poisonous spinach that had ruined his life, twisting his body into the monstrous form they now knew. The horrifying truth sank in. They had to escape. But first, they needed to warn their friends. Instead, they found only their mangled corpses. Dexter decided their only way out was the second exit. But as he reached it, he collided with Popeye. With a casual flick, Popeye broke Dexter's hand and lifted him into the air. Just as Popeye was about to deliver the killing blow, Olivia cried out, "Dad, no!" The monstrous figure paused. A flicker of recognition, of something akin to tenderness, crossed his distorted features. Olivia was his daughter, returned after years away, hoping to find her mother. A moment of fragile connection. Then, a gunshot shattered the silence. Joey, still alive, had shot Popeye from behind. Enraged, Popeye turned on Joey, who desperately grabbed Olivia as a shield. It was a fatal mistake. With a guttural roar, Popeye ripped Joey's arm from its socket, and then used the severed limb to beat him to death. Olivia, pulling the injured Dexter, fled the factory. Outside, they found a wounded Katie, who had managed to call the police. When the authorities arrived, Olivia, protecting her monstrous father, lied, claiming a madman was responsible. From the factory window, Popeye watched them leave, a silent promise in his eyes that Olivia would return. Back at the factory, Lex, his deal collapsing and his world crumbling, confronted Popeye. The monster simply stared, uttered strange, unintelligible sounds, and then, in a horrifying echo of his past brutality, crushed Lex's head between his massive hands. And there, in the chilling silence of the abandoned factory, the story ended.